Hello, everyone. I'm James McDaniels, and welcome to another edition of The Extra Yard. We've got a great show on tap for you guys today. So much things to talk about involving baseball and some golf, some NFL news, crazy NFL news. If that, we've also got some tennis to talk about, and then, as promised, I will finally give my reaction to the closing of the Stanley Cup Finals. Blackhawks, of course, making that big old comeback very late to win the Cup in 4 games, or should I say 6 games, 4 games to 2. So first off, I want to start with baseball, and we've got a lot of different news on baseball today from major leagues. So I've got Chris here. Chris is from National Sports. He's done a few shows. He's been taking some time off, but he's going to get back into doing his shows very soon. And he's got a lot of baseball knowledge, so I can't wait to hear what he's got to say about some of the topics that have been making the news lately. So, Chris, first question I got for you is involving Alex Rodriguez. Now, of course, Alex, or as we call him, A-Rod, as his nickname, he had an injury, and now he's doing rehab baseball. And, of course, he was a big name in the major leagues before he had that injury, and he kind of still is. And I think that's particularly the reason why ESPN actually went live to A-Rod's Charleston River Dogs at bats. And Charleston River Dogs are, of course, a minor league team that he's doing playing ball with in terms of getting back into the game. He's playing with the team as part of his rehab. So, question for you is it okay that ESPN seriously took the time out of their shows and went to A-Rod's live at-bats when he's playing for the Charleston River Dogs? Because I know that one personality I was listening to, he had a rant about it. He was so mad at it. What about you? Do you think ESPN did an okay move by showing that?
I don't think it was absolutely necessary. I think that the ESPN would be better off because, Derek Jeter's going to soon begin his rehab assignment as well. I think they'd be better off doing something like that for a guy like Jeter. And I think last year they did with Roger Clemens, too, when he was playing for the independent team, the Sugarland Skeeters. I can't say that I'm necessarily too upset that ESPN decided to broadcast Alex Rodriguez's at-bats. And I can't say that, it was must-watch TV because, take any time in my day to go watch Alex Rodriguez, a guy in the decline, a steroid user, according to some reports, he still has been choosing in the last couple of years since 03 when it was banned. So, I can't necessarily say that I'm an Alex Rodriguez supporter, but I'm not an Alex Rodriguez hater, so I'm kind of 50-50 on this topic. Obviously, it's clear looking at the numbers that Alex Rodriguez is on the decline. It's clear that, he's probably nearing the end of his career. Yeah, he probably has some left in the tank right now, but, I don't think it's too absurd, but I didn't think it was exactly necessary. Is this guy a sure first ballot Hall of Famer? I don't think so, just because of all the steroid tie-ins. And if Barry Bonds, the all-time home run king, you can put an asterisk next to that, didn't get in his first try. There's no way Alex Rodriguez gets in his first try, unless something completely changes in the next couple of years with the committee who decides who gets into the Hall of Fame. So, sure, you're looking at one of the, most talented power hitters that the game has ever seen, most talented baseman / shortstop, shortstop over in Texas. But, certainly looking at a very talented guy that I'm sure still has a lot of fans out there, but, was it really necessary to, watch his cat, Charles Kingsford, at it? I don't think it was exactly necessary, but I don't think it was absurd. But, to be completely honest here, I didn't catch any of the at-bats, and I didn't know what was supposed to be broadcasted on ESPN during that time. So, if it's just a couple of minutes taking out for an at-bat, I don't really mind it, but I believe that stuck to the MLB network because I don't know too many people that were really anxious to see Rodriguez in a rehab game.
Yeah, I wouldn't agree so either. I mean, really, there's a lot of other big sports things going on, and you're going to a guy that, that had all-star talent in his prime, but then got in trouble with all this steroid accusations and things like that, and they brought his career down, and then he had that injury, and now he's trying to come back and playing, and then in order to try to rehab back into the MLB. But like most players, once you go through a bad injury, especially if it's at the peak or near the peak of your career, you usually can never get back to the greatness that you had before having that injury. So, in my opinion, it definitely wasn't the smartest move. Now, I didn't actually see the at-bats just like you. I never actually saw them. But I did hear it from Grant Napier, and here's the big sports personality here in my area, so I can trust 100% that actually happened if he can go on a rant like that. So, from A-Rod to the actual standings of the MLB as they stand right now. Now, out in the National League, you have Atlanta that's absolutely got a pretty big lead over Washington, 6 games. In the National League Central, you have Pittsburgh, of all teams. That is kind of surprising everyone, I think, with their lead over the St. Louis Cardinals and then Cincinnati Reds. And then out west in the National League, you just got a bad set of teams. I mean, all 5 teams are separated within 4.5 games of each other, but their records are pretty pathetic. I mean, the leading team in the NL West is the Arizona Diamondbacks, and they have only 3 more wins than they do losses, and that's not that great if you're on a baseball team. And then out in the American League, you have the East, where Boston's leading. In the American League Central, you have Detroit leading over Cleveland and Kansas City. And then finally out west, you've got 2 really good teams battling it out right now between the Oakland A's and the Texas Rangers. So, out of all those division leaders, I said that Pittsburgh was probably the biggest surprise to me. What about you? What's the biggest surprise? Who's out of all the division leaders, who do you think is the biggest surprise this season so far?
Well, I gotta agree with you on the Pittsburgh Pirates obviously being the biggest surprise. You can't be too shocked because the past 2 seasons in 2012 and 2011, they got off to tremendous starts. They were in the race until the All-Star break, and then they just tanked in August and September and go back to the norm, an under 500 ball club when 162 was completed. And so, I mean, it's good to see. I think it's just good for baseball and good for the city of Pittsburgh that the Pirates are, at least how it looks like right now, on the way back to being a team that's going to be in contention. And it's not. And if the Pirates, keep this up and make the postseason this year, at least finish over 500 for the first time in a very long time, I think it provides much hope for fans and just people who follow baseball in general, because you look at the Pittsburgh Pirates roster, it's not like the 52 and 32 record that they hold right now is a fluke. I mean, you have one of the best young pitching staffs in the major leagues. You have Garrett Cole coming up. You got that lefty guy by the name of Locke in the rotation. He's got a good arm. Wandy Rodriguez, he's a veteran guy who can help steer the younger guys in that rotation. Francisco Liriano, we all know he has a huge upside, and he's still fairly young. So, you look at the starting pitching staff along with a young bullpen like Jason Zilli that's come a long way. And complain one bit about the offense either. Andrew McCutchen's not even having an Andrew McCutchen type season, yet this team is still able to put up 6-7 runs a night, it seems, every time they're out there winning ball games. And when the offense isn't working, it's the pitching staff. So I really think that it's just a great balanced team are the Pittsburgh Pirates right now, and it's going to be tough though for them to keep this up for the remainder of the season, because they have another very good team right in back of you, 2 games behind right now, the St. Louis Cardinals. Yeah, they've been slipping up late. They've lost 7 out of their last 10. I believe they're 3-7 in their last 14 games, if I'm not mistaken. And so, the Cardinals are going through that rough stretch. They were head and shoulders above everybody else like 2-3 weeks ago. But like every team, they're going through their rough stretch right now. But luckily for St. Louis, they do close with the Chicago Cubs, the Miami Marlins, and the Houston Astros. Not in that order. They host Miami this weekend in a little 2-game series against Houston, and then they finish out with the Chicago Cubs before the All-Star break. And of course, can't forget about the Cincinnati Reds, only 3.5 back as well. We all know how potent offense they have and the pitching staff that they have. I mean, we just saw Homer Bailey throw his second career no-hitter this weekend. Of course, the bullpen's great. Jonathan Broxton, Scott McClure, and Aroldis Chapman. So, it's going to be tough for Pittsburgh to keep it up. But, as of right now, 52-32, not much complaining going on in Steel City, and I think, easily, that's my long answer. That's definitely baseball's biggest surprise so far, but I would not be surprised to see them keep it up and ride it to the finish line and straight into the postseason.
Yeah, Pittsburgh, from what I've seen, I mean, last year they also surprised us a good bunch, too. I mean, they've been getting better season by season, and right now, I mean, you said if they can finish over 500, that would be great, and right now they're over 600, almost to 620 at this point in the season. Now, of course, you also did mention they might be going through a rough stretch right now, but honestly, with 162 games you got to do every year, plus if you make it to postseason, you have postseason play too, and even preseason as well. So every team's going to have their rough stretch, but right now, even though Pittsburgh's going through it, they're still on top in the National League Central. Now, you mentioned Homer Bailey. I'm going to go over that in just a minute here, but before I ask you about that, I want to ask you just about the National League West in general. I mentioned that pretty much they are all doing really bad right now. They're only separated by 4.5 games, but every single one of them is having a very bad season. In fact, only the National League West leader of Arizona actually has a percentage over 500. So I'll take it back to specifically the San Francisco Giants. And it's not because I'm a Giants fan, but it's because the San Francisco Giants have won 2 of the last 3 World Series, and now they're the last in their division. Their record of 39-45 is ridiculous. So they've got a very good pitching staff, but they just can't seem to hit the ball and produce offense. I mean, their lineup doesn't scare you. Would you agree with that statement, or do you think San Francisco has another issue as to why they cannot win their baseball games?
I just think, San Francisco has hit a rough patch here, and really since the Marlins came to town a couple weekends ago and took 3 out of 4, they have just not looked like the same team. But, they're fortunate that they're in a division that has been struggling so far this season. And, they're only 4.5 games back. I mean, you look at a team like the Washington Nationals who, they're a game over 500 and, they still sit 6.5 back. You look at the surging Los Angeles Angels team that have won, 8 of their last 9 games, and they're still 8.5 back of the Oakland Athletics. So, I mean, thank goodness for the wild card. Obviously, it's probably not going to help anybody in the NL West. The wild card's probably going to come out of the Central and the East, or the 2 teams in the Central, St. Louis and Cincinnati, look like the second and third best teams in the National League behind the Pittsburgh Pirates right now. And, I mean, sticking to the question of why the Giants have just been struggling so far, I think it's just, it has been offense, I mean, the Giants did such a good job. Like you said, they've won 2 out of the last 3 World Series championships. I mean, obviously, I think they've taken a step down as far as offense goes from that 2010 ball club, but they still made it work last year with their pitching, and their offense caught fire when it needed to in the postseason. Now, is their offense always going to be this consistent? No, they don't really have a big bat in the order. I mean, Buster Posey's a great hitter. Pablo Santos is a great hitter. Brandon Belt, he's on the way to becoming, a star first baseman if everything goes as planned with Brandon Belt up in San Francisco. But it's not that one big bat there to steer the load. I mean, you look at all the first place teams, they have that big bat, or they have a couple of big bats in the lineups. Atlanta, you got the Upton brothers, you Freeman, you got Ryan McCann. I mean, obviously, we saw last year in the World Series that, it doesn't matter about offense when you get there, but get there, I mean, you got to have some offense. I mean, Detroit didn't get to the World Series last year without their offense. I mean, is their offense going to win them the World Series? Obviously not. I mean, they got by a team that, Texas didn't have anywhere near the offensive power. I mean, the Giants have nobody to counter Triple Crown winner Miguel Cabrera and Prince Fielder backing them up. I mean, the Giants, I think, if they're on the hunt, which it looks like they will be, they're only 4.5 back, and it's not like anyone's going to run away with that division anytime soon. I really think that the Giants have got to go out and get themselves a premier bat at the trade deadline. I'm not too sure who that would be at this point because it's still a little bit early to see who's going to buy or who's going to sell. But, I mean, if the Giants, you got to be looking, at possibly the Chicago White Sox who have already pulled themselves off the sellers. I mean, maybe go out and explore a trade for Alex Rios, even though he has a lot of money still on that contract. I mean, he's been hitting a lot of power. I wouldn't mess with Adam Dunn because just such a low batting average, and he's just a hit it all or swing and miss high. And Paul Konerko's not available. But, I mean, that's just an example I'm throwing out there. I really think the Giants are going to sell another power bat to complement guys like Posey and Sandoval in the middle of the batting order if they, have any chance at being as world champions, let alone getting themselves back into the hunt and getting themselves back into the postseason. So right now, I think, your offense is struggling. The pitching staff's really got to bear down here as we head into the All-Star break. As we head into the All-Star break, it's about 7-8 games left before we head out to Citi Field for the All-Star game in New York. So
now,
I think that the Giants, they absolutely have the pitching, but the hitting it hasn't been there. I mean, you look at their series last week against the Rockies. They scored one run twice at Coors Field, and it's not like the Rockies have got themselves a outstanding pitching staff as well out there. So certainly, actions have to be taken. If this lineup with the Giants doesn't heat up, but I really think that they should look into getting a big bat out of the trade deadline.
Yeah, the San Francisco Giants. Now, you did mention Pablo Sandoval and Buster Posey. Now, I've seen the Giants definitely several times on TV, especially in the last few years, as they've been making those championship runs, and 2 times they actually got the championship. And yeah, when their bats get hot, they can actually do some pretty bad damage from the plate. And like you said, they have a good pitching staff, but right now the bats are just really, really cooled down. They can't get them heated up, and right now they're 6 games behind 500, so they're going to have to turn around, but at least they've still got about half the season to get that done. Luckily, they're in a pretty bad division right now. If they were in pretty much any other division, they probably already would be in big trouble. But San Francisco Giants, I mean, they can be bad on the offense, but it gets really bad if they can't hit a single hit during a game, and that's what happened the other night against the Cincinnati Reds. You mentioned it earlier. Homer Bailey, he pitched a no-hitter against the Giants. This is his second no-hitter of his career, and I think he's owned the last 2 no-hitters. In 10 months, he's been the only guy to throw a no-hitter. So he's had 2 no-hitters now, and that puts him in an elite group. I believe that's only the 31st pitcher all time in MLB history to throw at least 2 no-hitters. So with the fact that the Giants have not had a lot of great offense lately, do you think it was which one do you think was the reason Homer was able to get a no-hitter? Was it from his pitching ability, or was it from the Giants' inability to hit?
Well, I think it was a mixture of both. I think, Homer Bailey, he's clearly a guy that, he's not going to overpower you with his fastball, but he does a great job of changing speed. He mixes in his breaking stuff often and very well. And like you said, he's thrown a no-hitter in the past. So, I mean, that alone proves to us that, this is a guy that has no-hit stuff. And, he's been able to handle that before. A lot of pitchers, once to the sixth or seventh inning and they see that, the other team has all goose eggs up there on the scoreboard, I mean, they start to, kind of change their mindset. But, Homer's already done it once, and, to do it a second time, like you said, absolutely phenomenal. Puts him in an elite group of pitchers in this great pastime. And, I just think that Homer caught the San Francisco Giants at the right time. And, the Giants, clearly a team that have struggled lately, like you said, with the bats. And, I just think that it was kind of, you can't get much lower than that if you're the San Francisco Giants. It was kind of the peak of this stretch, per se. And then, of course, they lost on a walk-off the night after, which must have been pretty tough to swallow as well. So, Homer, clearly a guy with good stuff. I mean, he was a first-round pick, 7th overall back in 2004. He's a phenomenal pitcher. He's not a Cy Young pitcher. He's not really an all-star pitcher. He's truly a 3 or 4 guy in the rotation, but he's a guy with sneaky no-hit stuff, and he got the San Francisco Giants at the perfect time and was able to block his second career no-hitter.
Yeah, I think Homer Bailey, I mean, just throwing a no-hitter in any baseball game, regardless of what level you're on, is a pretty big deal because you don't see him too often. I actually was privileged to see, I was covering a game in the minor leagues around my area, and I actually witnessed a no-hitter, and you can't believe the feeling that you get when you see somebody throw a no-hitter, especially when they go all 9 innings and, really didn't let up at all. So it's always great to see no-hitters because, I mean, they're very unusual, so, you kind of feel pride for a guy when he completes such a feat. Now, of course, the only thing really better than a no-hitter is a perfect game, and I just want to ask you here very quickly, do you think Homer Bailey, now that he has 2 no-hitters, do you ever think he will actually complete a perfect game?
Well, I mean, that's hard to say because there are a plethora of fantastic major league pitchers. Let's face it, pitchers with Homer Bailey in the major leagues that haven't thrown a no-hitter and never will throw a no-hitter. I mean, I think, honestly, a lot of, throwing a no-hitter has to do with, luck, coincidence. I'm not a big believer in, luck, I guess you could say, but, I mean, there's obviously such thing as coincidence, and it seems as if in every no-hitter there's that heads-up play that keeps it intact, or there's that, line drive down the line that just goes foul. So, it's hard to tell. I mean, obviously, he's still very young, Homer Bailey. This is his 7th year in the league, but, I mean, he's still got plenty of time ahead of him. He's still a young guy, barely 30. So, it's hard to tell you. Baseball is one of those games you just really can't, when stuff like that's going to happen. I mean, if you were to tell me, even knowing that Homer Bailey's tossed another no-hitter, in his career, if you were to tell me before the game on Tuesday, I believe it was, that Homer Bailey would no-hit the San Francisco Giants, even as bad as the offense has been for San Francisco, I'd say you're crazy because, I mean, that stuff's just too hard to predict, and it's not like Homer Bailey is a guy with like a sub-3 ERA, headed to an All-Star game appearance. I mean, that's not the case at all. I mean, he hasn't done too poorly this year, but, I mean, he's under 500 as far as his record goes, and his ERA is about 3.5, which isn't terrible at all. It's pretty good for a 3-4 guy in the rotation, and that's exactly what he is in the Cincinnati Reds rotation. But to say that he's going to throw a perfect game is just it's just too hard to tell. I mean, it's baseball. That's why we love it so much.
Yeah, I'll agree with you. I'll agree with you on the fact that luck definitely plays a big role in it. Something has to go your way when you see no hitters. Like I remember, I have actually the entire game of when Matt Cain pitched the perfect game against the Astros. I think it was either last year or 2 years ago. I actually have the full game on my computer, and I still have yet to watch it in full, but you can never stop hitting the replay button back in the 7th inning of that game when I believe it was Blanco that was out and tried to he had to make a diving catch in the big wide opening triples alley, they call it, and he had to just make a diving catch to save the perfect game. And and then there was another catch earlier in the game that was nearly a home run, but fell just short onto the correct side of the wall for the Giants to catch it. So, I mean, Matt Cain had to get a few pieces of luck to keep that perfect game, but a perfect game is a perfect game. No matter what team you go against, no matter how bad the team is, a perfect game is a perfect game, and you can never say that. You can never say that you never threw a perfect game if that happened to you, regardless. So, I mean, I honestly think, I mean, Homer Bailey, I think, you know, if we had to just randomly pick a pitcher to get a perfect game, probably some pitchers that might come to mind might be either Tim Lincecum or I can't remember what the guy's name is on the Detroit Tigers right now, but he's good. Verlander, that's the guy. He also definitely could easily probably throw a perfect game maybe one time in his career. And then Homer Bailey probably might be a front runner with 2 no-hitters and still going very strong at a young age. So that's my take on it in terms of perfect games and no-hitters. And then finally, the last question I want to ask you, what do you think, who do you think, I should say, is going to be on the All-Star game rosters? I mean, we have, of course, the NL and the AL. They pick players from their different leagues, and then they, of course, play their All-Star game, and then the winner of the All-Star game, that league gets home field advantage come World Series time. So, I mean, there's always some added little incentive to it. So who do you think will be on the rosters, and who do you ultimately think is going to win that home field advantage for their league?
Well, first of all, I mean, a lot of it has to do with the fan vote, but obviously, you know, starting off in the National League, you have, you know, 2 fantastic catchers. I'm sure you know a lot about Buster Posey, and then Yadier Molina, who could very well possibly be the leading candidate for most valuable player so far in the National League, which is kind of crazy. But I mean, he's such a fantastic defensive catcher, and he's, you know, really finally doing it with the bat. Always been a good hitter. Definitely the best out of the 3 Molina brothers, hands down. And then, you know, I mean, obviously you're going to have, you know, the popular guys in the American League as well. You know, you're probably going to have Joe Mauer behind the dish for the American League. You're going to have Big Papi at the designated hitter spot. You're going to have Mike Trout, Adam Jones, Chris Davis, Miguel Cabrera, Prince Fielder. You know, just the big-time names. And that's exactly what everyone wants to see in the All-Star game. And one guy I want to point out, you know, it looks like Brandon Phillips of the Cincinnati Reds is probably going to be the starter at second base, but don't overlook the Cardinals' second baseman, Matt Carpenter. He's batted leadoff for them the majority of this season. I mean, he's done it power-wise. He's done it, you know, just spraying the ball to the gaps. I mean, he's done a fantastic job so far this season. St. Louis at second base. It is a big part of their early season success so far, as we've just reached the halfway point in the Major League season. So, you know, I mean, there's a couple of, you know, guys that are going to kind of grasp your attention and be like, wow, I didn't know they were all-star worthy. But one of them that's going to definitely look out for is Matt Carpenter of the St. Louis Cardinals. As far as winning the game goes, I think right now, you know, just for the looks of it, the National League has, you know, a better pitching staff. You know, you got Matt Harvey, Adam Wainwright, Clayton Kershaw, Shelby Miller. I mean, you got a lot of good stuff in the National League. Whereas in the American League, I mean, you got some good starters like T.T. Sabathia and Justin Verlander, but, you know, CT's kind of, you know, not had a T.T. Sabathia type season so far. David Price has been hurt a lot this season. R.A. Dickey, nowhere near the pitcher he was last season with the New York Mets up in Toronto right now. And Jared Weaver, he's working on his 10th, 11th start, trying to get back into the group that, you know, the pitcher that we all know he can be. So, you know, as far as, you know, pitching goes, I mean, obviously it's dominant pitching, and we saw that last year when the National League won their third All-Star game in a row. And I wouldn't be surprised if they won their 4th in a row, just based on the fact that I think pitching in the National League, that they really have that going for them. Opposing the American League pitching staff.
Yeah, I think, in all honesty, the National League has some pretty good pitching. Of course, you can look back at the Giants to just kind of get a feel for what the National League pitchers do, because the National League does have a good set of major league pitchers, and of course in the AL you got Joe Mauer that's almost positively going to start behind the plate as the catcher, and then you mentioned some other names in there. I mean, with all these guys now put together, what league this year do you think is going to win the All-Star game? Which league? American League or National League?
I'm going to go with National League. I think you have a little bit more pop in the bat as far as the American League goes. But I mean, even with in the fences at City Field out in Queens, New York, I mean, you're still looking at a pitcher's ballpark up there, and just based on the fact that the National League's got some good young power arms, as I mentioned, Matt Harvey, Shelby Miller, Clayton Kershaw, not to mention the great bullpen out in the National League as well. I just think that the National League is on their way to a fourth straight All-Star game victory. But I mean, it's one game. It's kind of like it's baseball. I mean, anything can happen. The worst team can beat the best team. Anything can happen on any given night. So, either way it goes, I mean, I'm sure it's going to be one heck of a game. The All-Star game is always something fun to watch. Always going to look forward to the home run derby, the celebrity All-Star game. I mean, there's a lot of festivities to look forward to. And, it's always a good time in summer when you're sitting back on your couch or, hanging out with some friends at a restaurant or wherever you're watching the All-Star game. It's always an enjoyable, somewhat stress-free time because, it's baseball. Home field advantage only goes so far in this sport, and it's going to be a good time.
Well, no matter, and I'll agree with that too, because I mean, regardless of what sport we're talking about, I mean, I don't care if you're talking about the NASCAR Sprint Cup All-Star Race, where that's in 3 different segments. I mean, there's no points involved, but the winner goes home with $1 million, so that's like one of the biggest, highest paid races of the year, so everybody goes for it since they got nothing to lose in terms of the championship. When you go to the NBA, you have the Rookie Challenge, 3-point contest, dunk contest. In baseball, you have, of course, like you said, you have the Home Run Derby, Celebrity All-Star Game. So many, I mean, every sport has their own specific things that they do for All-Star Weekend, regardless of, where you are. You always fit to enjoy that because you get to see the best of the best in each certain category. And then in baseball, that's, of course, home runs. And then, of course, like every series, the All-Star Game. So, Chris, it's been great having you on with your baseball knowledge. I really liked hearing some of the information you had. You're very informed about the league. So, can't wait to have you again soon on my show, and hopefully I'll get to be on your show soon.
Absolutely. We'll get Chris's Corner. And I think, we're going to make some adjustments as far as my show goes. This upcoming week, we'll get it back up on National Sports Air. I think we're just going to stick right now to Major League Baseball and college basketball and college football until, the NFL starts getting playing a little more. I know there's always news, 24/7, 365 as far as NFL goes, but, we're just going to focus on Major League Baseball and getting ready for college gridiron right now. But, definitely I appreciate you letting me have my time on your show, and I'll definitely get you back and let you come on one of the shows in the upcoming weeks. Definitely enjoy your sports insight as well. I've listened to your NASCAR NBA Power Half Hour, Power Hour. I've heard it a couple of times. It's pretty good. I follow NASCAR every now and then of course I'm a big follower of the NBA as well. So definitely I appreciate letting me come on the show, and I'll definitely let you come on my show sometime in the near future.
All right. So, Chris, it's been great talking to you. I'll get on to some of my other subjects now, and I hope you have a good one until I talk to you again soon.
All right. Yeah. Sure.
All right. Bye. All right. So that was Chris. Like I said earlier, Chris has had shows on the National Sports Network. He's been taking a break, and now we'll be getting back into it very soon. Hopefully I'll be on his show very soon, as I like to be a guest on other shows as well as doing the shows that I do now. So let's get on to, we've talked a lot about baseball. In fact, we're at 35 minutes already. You see, an interview takes, it takes up a lot of time. So if you're going to start a show on national sports, try to get one of us on here, whether it's me or Robert or Eric or Chris or Cameron. Just get one of us on. I mean, just interviewing us about some different sports stories. I mean, it just takes up time so quickly, and you actually don't have to do a lot of talking. So any one of you that's new to national sports and are listening to this, try to get any of us to get an interview, because trust me, we'll do it. No, I mean, really. And if you ask me, I will definitely do it if it fits on my schedule. So let's get on to the NFL. And we've got a few stories on the NFL right now. First thing has to do with the St. Louis Rams, of course. They play in Edward Jones Dome. And I actually saw that dome when I went to St. Louis. I believe it was last year. I got a few pictures in front of it. That place was absolutely huge. And that's the first time I've ever seen an NFL stadium. And while I did not go in it, I saw the outside of it, and it was just enormous. So if you ever go see an NFL game, just be ready to be just amazed with how big the stadium is, because if you go to NBA and baseball, the stadium is not that big in terms of like so much capacity in such a little space until you go to an NFL game. And especially if you go to an inside one, that place will get loud, especially if the fans really, really start cheering up high. And that comes from my cousin. They've gone to games before, and that stadium, they say, gets so loud you can't even hear. So, yeah, that's NFL for you. So anyway, Rams, St. Louis Rams, they can actually break their lease now that they have to play in Edward Jones Dome. And so here's the official statement from ESPN. Quote, the organization that runs the Edward Jones Dome has made it official. The facility will not get a publicly funded $700 million upgrade that the St. Louis Rams requested. So, I mean, one thing that I see when I read that, it's like, wow, boy, the Sacramento Kings were going to be getting an arena now for about $400 million or $350 million. You got a big-time arena right now, and you want to upgrade it for $700 million? That's like making two new sports complexes in the city of Sacramento. So the price, that's obviously a lot of money, but I mean, obviously if they wanted to make a big-time upgrade, then fine, but $700 million like that, I don't think anybody's going to go through with that, and that's exactly what happened. And then now let's go back to ESPN. The St. Louis Convention and Visitors Commission President Kathleen Ratcliffe informed the Rams of the decision in a letter dated Tuesday. It was no surprise. After arbitrators ruled in favor of the Rams' plan over a much more modest CVC proposal, the CVC said in February it was unlikely to implement the plan. The decision, now, here's the big thing for Rams fans. The decision allows the Rams to break their lease with the Dome after the 2014 season, meaning that there is a possibility the Rams could relocate outside of St. Louis. And either that means that they go somewhere else in St. Louis, which is very unlikely, or the thing that really scares a lot of people who are big fans of a team, and like it scared us Sacramento Kings fans here around the Sacramento area, relocation. So the Rams could leave St. Louis because of this, what now is a very, very tiny story on ESPN, could become big in about a year or two, come 2014. No other people were available to comment on that story, by the way. Now let's move on from the St. Louis Rams. Let's go back to the Hernandez case. Of course, Hernandez is suspected of murder. He was arrested. And now it turns out that not only has he had past violence that's been going on, Tim Tebow is now in on this now. All right, Tim Tebow, very, very good college quarterback over at Florida University, Florida University of the Florida Gators. But oh my gosh, he's just been a class act in the NFL. I mean, of course, we all remember the butt fumble back in Thanksgiving, and that's still that play is still on ESPN's Worst of the Worst. It has not been voted off. It's been going, I think, 30 weeks straight. Nobody's knocked it off, and I don't think nobody will ever knock that play off. I mean, it was so embarrassing for both Tebow and the team itself. I mean, seriously, you carrying the football as a quarterback, you run right into the guy, like no idea where you're going, you fumble, and you give up a touchdown. Especially on Thanksgiving when everybody's watching. So that's obviously not the best thing that Tebow wanted there. So in that way, in both the way he's been playing in the NFL ever since he got to the NFL, he's definitely been a class act, but he's definitely not met up to what everybody thought he would be as a quarterback based on the way he just dominated in college. But now, like I said, Tim Tebow is now on this Hernandez situation, and here's how. Tebow actually tried to stop a fight that Hernandez had back in 2007 at a bar. Alright, this was back when Hernandez was freaking 17 years old. Alright, he wasn't even 18, wasn't even a legal adult at this age. Alright, so you already know things have got to be bad. Alright, so here's what happened. So Hernandez consumed 2 drinks. Alright, and again, he's 17 years old, so he's not legally supposed to be doing this. And Hernandez refused to pay for the 2 drinks that he consumed. Now, Tim Tebow, he offered to pay the disputed bill that Hernandez was arguing about. But, of course, like any business, when you don't pay the money you're supposed to pay for whatever service you kind of get, in this case it was for the 2 drinks, employee Michael Taphorn became angry with Hernandez and yelled at him. And now this is all from ESPN. As he turned to walk away, Hernandez punched Taphorn in the side of the head. Taphorn saw the doctor the next day and was diagnosed with a ruptured eardrum. When police arrived at the scene, they could not find Hernandez, and instead they interviewed Tim Tebow about the incident. And according to what the police got from Tebow, Tebow said that he tried to help resolve the conflict. According to Tebow, to the police as part of what he witnessed. So, but however, I don't think Tebow was on the first report. He was in the second report, I think. I'm not sure. But let's see here. Okay, now this is also from ESPN. The report noted that Tebow and Hernandez told police they had notified then coach Urban Meyer of the incident, and then the Centennial, and then it still doesn't stop from there. The Sentinel reported that police caught up with Hernandez 2 hours later to speak with him about the incident. The officer who interviewed him wrote that Hernandez was polite and professional and did not appear to be intoxicated, even though he still had 2 drinks under the age of 18, 21, whatever you want to say. But point is he was underage because he was 17, and I know that. So Tim Tebow has even gone in on this now. 2017 incident. He's still a class act. So just adds to Hernandez's trouble. Now he not only has he gotten in trouble for murder, but now he had to have a fight nearly broken up by Tim Tebow, who's been a class act in the NFL. So that makes Hernandez look even more like a joke. And the fact that he was in a bar fight when he was 17 and he was drinking, that makes him even look more pathetic. So you know what? I just lost every bit from what I'm hearing on this incident. I've kind of lost all trust in Hernandez. It definitely appears he's had further trouble or past trouble in his life, and you know, he didn't start out well, and he's still not doing well, and now he's behind bars awaiting trial or he's either behind bars or he's out on bail or something, but point is he's waiting to go on trial for a murder, and not only that, but he's also suspected of yet, I think, 1 or 2 more murders. So this guy's life's really, really tumbling down on him really fast, and I think it just puts the icing on the cake, the fact that Tim Tebow had actually something to do with an Aaron Hernandez incident. That kind of made my day. That really did. When I saw that made my day. So that's all I got to say. Tim Tebow, I don't know if he'll ever become a great quarterback. He's just had so much trouble really ever since he entered the NFL. So and he's still getting laughed at over the fact that he made that butt fumble back at Thanksgiving. I don't think anybody will ever beat that. play is worse the worst, but you never know. But that's the latest on the Hernandez case. Now, finally, after nearly 45 minutes and counting, and the fact that I didn't do it on my last show like I promised, I'm finally going to give my take on the Blackhawks and Bruins Game 6. Chicago wins 4-2 out of that series. Now, the Bruins, they had a 2-1 lead late in the game with under 2 minutes left to go. And I'm like, all right, we're going to a Game 7. We're going to a Game 7. Nothing's going to happen now. And even the ESPN reporters were like, when we were finishing writing our scripts and start walking over to the desk, the game was something completely different than what it was when we sat down like 2 minutes later. And you know what? I don't think that can be lied about. I mean, seriously. I think it was about I think it was 1:16 in the game that this happened. So anyway, the Bruins had a 2-1 lead. Blackhawks, they score with 1:16 left, shocking everybody. So now the game's tied, and it looks for sure they're going to go to overtime. But then, after 17 seconds after the next face-off, the Blackhawks score again. 2 goals, 17 seconds. Bruins give up the Stanley Cup just like that. It's just like the Heat game. Spurs were up 30 seconds left to go. It was their game to win. It was their series to win. It was their championship to win. The only thing that wasn't theirs to win really was a loud applause from the home crowd. Considering they were not at home, they were on the road against the Miami Heat, Game 6. And of course, Miami Heat were probably pretty favored in this one in most cases over the San Antonio Spurs to win the series. And then, of course, we all remember Ray Allen hit that miraculous 3, tying the game with 5 seconds remaining. Game went to overtime. Heat won that game, and then Heat would go on and win Game 7. And, of course, one thing that helped in Game 7 was the fact that Tim Duncan missed a pretty easy hook shot late in the game, I think with under a minute left to go, and then that really finished things off, and the Heat won the series. And, of course, we always remember the fans. Game 6, the ones who left, the very bandwagon-like fans, the ones that were not true fans, they got up and left kind of in protest. They were never let back in, which I think was the right move by the arena to do. Not only did it follow policy, but they should not have gone back in to see their team if they weren't those true fans. So I applaud the people who stayed, because that shows you're a true fan, and that's really like me. Fan that stays to the very end regardless of what happens. But that's basketball. Let's get back to the NHL, back to this game. And so I'll just go over very quickly who shot those 3 goals for the Blackhawks. You had Toews that scored a goal, and he only took 1 shot, so he was 1 for 1. He was 100% from the field, I guess you could say. Or 100% from the ice, I should probably say, considering this is hockey. Bickle and Ballin both took 3 shots for the Blackhawks, and each of them scored a goal. And, of course, all 3 of those goals crucial in the 3-2 win, and then 2 of those goals, of course, made in the final 2 minutes, 17 seconds apart. So, yeah, I mean, I was just completely shocked. I did not expect it. Biggest surprise comeback ever, really, in any kind of playoff game. And hockey, it's hard to come by because you can't come back, really, because when you're playing hockey, you've got goalies that are protecting really every inch of the goal, and the puck is so small, and there's only a small hole to put it into, and you have to be so accurate with your shots in both power and accuracy. So really, I did not expect, and I don't think anybody expected, 3-2 finish when it was 2-1 Boston with only like 1:20 left, and then those 2 goals were scored. But I feel kind of sorry for Boston. Of course, Boston played really, really hard. All their hearts out. Really, every Boston team has, ever since the very devastating Boston bombings that occurred at the Marathon. And of course, we still have condolences for the families and friends who were affected by that tragedy. So Boston really did have, they had a lot of emotion. They had a lot of reason to go and play this hard. But Chicago at the end came back and made a surprising comeback to win Game 6. And They did not let it go to a Game 7 like the Bruins would have wanted. So that's my reaction. Very shocked. Kind of sad for Boston because I knew that how hard they were playing and for what reasons. But that just shows you sports, anything can happen. Anything. It's never over until that final buzzer sounds and you either still have your ball in your hand or it's up in the air. Or, in this case, puck on the ice and puck passing around and everything. It's never done, even if you're down 1 goal, 2 minutes left to go, and you're and right now, and then your current championship might be on the line. So that's my reaction to it. Kind of the same thing as everybody else. Yeah, so that's hockey for you. Shows anything can happen. Let's see. Let's go to golf now. The Green Brier Classic. Oh my goodness, Green Brier, always a fun tournament to play. This time, it is being played at the Old White TPC, located in White Sulphur Springs, West Virginia. Par 70, 7,287 yards is the course. Last year's champion was Ted Potter Jr., and then right now, round 2 is currently in progress. Right now, the course is playing actually pretty friendly to the golfers. They're scoring pretty easily. Daniel Summerhays right now is leading the way with 8 under overall score with a 3 under par today. In this round, he is done for the day. We still have a few people finishing up. Dave H. Lee still has a good third of a round left to go. He is 5 under par. He's a little bit back. He's tied 16th, and he's 1 under on the day. So, let's see. That's golf for you. I don't see too many big names. Last week's champion, Bill Haas, he is at 4 under, tied 26th, and he's 2 under on the day. He's completed 17, so he's only got 1 hole left before his round is done. The purse for this tournament is $6.3 million, and you can find this tournament on either CBS or TGC on your TV. And that's, of course, the PGA Tour. On the Euro Tour, we have the Alstom Open de France. That is located at the Le Golf National. A par 71, 7,331 yards is the course. Right now, your leader is Fabrizio Zanotti. He is 6 under par overall with a 3 under par round today. So 3 under par both rounds. He is done for the day. Let's see. U.S. Women's Open, a big championship weekend for the woman. Actually was last week. Let's see. The Euro, I think, was this week too. Yeah. Euro was this week. And then U.S. Women's Open was last week. $3.25 million was the purse. 2012 championship was Na Yeon Choi. This year, right now, a lot of players are playing over par in this, or actually this was last week. I'm still forgetting that. Last week, people were playing over par a lot. There were only 3 players in the entire tournament that actually finished under par, and NB Park wins the 2013 U.S. Women's Open last week with a final score of 8 under par to win the tournament. NB Park, your champion of the U.S. Women's Open 2013. In the Champions Tour, you have the Constellation Senior Players Championship. That also took place last weekend. Fox Chapel Golf Club was the site. Par 70, 6,696 yards. Last year's champion was Joe Daly. The purse is $2.7 million, or I should say was. And the seniors absolutely dominated this course, finishing with pretty good scores, in all honesty, for actual real golf. If you try to play it on video games, it's a lot easier to get a score like this in one round, but of course this is real golf, so real golf's a lot tougher. The winner was Kenny Perry, finished 19 under par, had some really good rounds, and he took home $405,000 as his little prize for winning the Constellation Senior Players Championship. And finally, Web.com even has a tournament of its own. June 27th to July 1st, Victoria National Golf Club hosts the United Leasing Championship. That was last week. Par 72, 7,242 yards is the course. Last year's champion was Peter Tomasulo. Purse was a mere $600,000. Ben Martin, Joe Affronti, and Ashley Hall and Billy Hurley III all tied for first at the end of regulation, or at the end of 72 holes, I should say, with all of them having 11 under par as their overall score. In the one-hole playoff results, all of them got, three of them scored different, or there were three different scores on the first playoff hole, but only one was the best, and in that case, Ben Martin took home the championship, winning on the 18th hole with a score of 4. Joe Affronti, Billy Hurley III finished one stroke behind at 5 on the playoff hole, and then Ashley Hall had a pretty bad hole on the playoff, scoring 8. And Ben Martin, he took home a winning of $108,000 for his swing and for his play. So that's golf. That's the latest in golf. And in Wimbledon, of course, one of the biggest Grand Slam tournaments of the tennis schedule. Roger Federer, dominator at this event, taken out in the early rounds of all things. Taken out really early. So there's not going to be another championship for Roger Federer, at least in this tournament this year. A tournament he has absolutely dominated over the course of his career. And right now, the final for the gentlemen's singles is going to be between Novak Djokovic and Andy Murray. They are, of course, Djokovic is one of the best players in the world, and so is Andy Murray, two of the top-tiered guys. I mean, even though there was an upset early with Roger Federer, still, the Wimbledon final for the singles for men is going to be a good one between two great players in Djokovic and Murray. On the ladies' singles side, we have two very not too often names you hear about. Sabine Lisicki and Marion Bartoli are the two women that are going to be going for the singles championship at Wimbledon this year. And, of course, it's very odd to hear a name other than, say, Sharapova or either of the Williams sisters being in a final. So these two names, Sabine Lisicki from Germany and Marion Bartoli from France, are going to be going at it to try to win one of the biggest tennis tournaments you can in the world. And try to, of course, maybe by winning this, they'll get their name really out there and they can maybe start winning some more Grand Slams, because it only takes one Grand Slam to really get you going. So it's nice to see, some new people that you usually don't see in a finals at a big tournament. I mean, it just shows you that everything is not just a one-man show, really, in the world of sports. I mean, tennis is a one-person show. It is. You're only one-person team, and you only have to beat one other person on the other side of the court. But tennis is a game where really anybody can win. Anybody can make an upset at any time. You just never know. Just like this year with Roger Federer. But girls' side too. Girls' side we don't see too often are going to be finding it out at Wimbledon, and I can't wait to see which underdog is going to win one of the greatest Grand Slams in sports, in tennis play, and also probably one of the biggest tournaments Wimbledon is out of all sports tournaments. So that's your update on Wimbledon. And you know what, guys? I don't have a specific time this thing was supposed to end, the extra yard, because, I mean, it's not like the Power Half Hour where it says right there in the name, half an hour. My last show went on 40 minutes. This show, I'm just short of 59 minutes now, so I'm going to have a nice hour show here, and it feels pretty good to get a show out like this. So, recap, we talked about baseball, the Giants A-Rod, the standings, the All-Star game. We talked a little bit about the NFL with Aaron Hernandez and Tim Tebow now into it, and Edward Jones Stadium, now the issue that it could be causing for the Rams. The Chicago Blackhawks, finally gave my opinion on that. Gave you all the updated information on the latest tournaments that have been going on in the world of golf, and then finally went over quickly some reaction that I had to what's going on at Wimbledon. So, guys, the next time I'll see you will be on the NBA and NASCAR Power Half Hour within a few days, about maybe 3 or 4 days from now. We'll talk everything NBA, of course, free agency, and anything to do with NASCAR. I will speak about it as well. So until I see you guys again, this has been James McDaniels. I thank you, Chris. I thank you to Chris again for coming on the show. We've hit 1 hour landmark on any show that I've done. So again, James McDaniels signing off from the Extra Yard. Say thank you to Chris again for being a great guest on this show. And until I see you again, guys, I hope you have a good one. So this is James McDaniels signing off